by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please sit. Good afternoon. I'm Alice Greenwald, President and CEO of the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, and it is my distinct honor to welcome you and to express our appreciation for joining us today as we pay tribute to the 6 innocent people killed, one of whom was a pregnant woman, and the over 1,000 who were injured in the first terrorist attack at the World Trade Center 26 years ago. At the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, it is both our duty and our privilege to preserve the history of this tragic event, pay tribute to those 6 individuals whose names are etched in bronze on the panels beside us, stand in solidarity and shared grief with their families and their friends, recognize the endurance of those who survived, and honor the brave men and women who risked their lives to save others. The date of February 26th is engraved in our memories, and so year after year, we gather at this sacred place to show our support for those who mourn, as well as those who endured the chaos, the confusion, and the terror firsthand. I want to briefly acknowledge and welcome members of the Memorial and Museum's Board of Directors, elected officials, and distinguished guests in attendance today. Thank you all for gathering with us on this somber anniversary here at the Memorial's North Pool. I'd also like to thank Rick Cotton, Executive Director of the Port Authority, for joining us. The Port Authority and its staff have been stalwart leaders at this site and throughout the city. They've been champions of rebuilding and renewal. Their dedication to remembrance and their demonstration of resilience have been models for all of us. Rick, please join me at the podium, and we'd like to hear a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice, and good afternoon. We're here today to remember the memories of those who died 26 years ago and to express our heartfelt condolences to the families of those loved ones. I'd also like to recall the more than 1,000 people who were injured that day, including our brave first responders. The resilience of those who lived through the tragic events of that day in 1993 is a testament to the strength of our humanity and our community. Each year since that event, the family members of those who died in 1993 have returned to this site to pray and to grieve, keeping alive the memories of their loved ones. With all due humility, since I joined the Port Authority a relatively recent time ago, I am here representing the 7,600 current employees of the Port Authority, as well as those past and present, to express our condolences and to remember those who died that day. During the past decade, we've made tremendous strides to rebuild this site, bigger and better than ever before, as a testament to those who have lost their lives on these sacred grounds. The attacks on the World Trade Center of February 26th and September 11th represent terrible tragedies and wanton attacks. We have therefore gone to great lengths to make sure that the site provides the highest levels of safety and security for our employees, tenants, visitors, and the surrounding community. But on the anniversaries of these terrible attacks, we believe that the greatest tribute we can pay to those who died and those who were injured is to bring this site back with more energy and more vibrancy than ever before. Please know that the Port Authority will always stand side by side with you. Please know that we will never forget, and we will continue to strive to prevent similar acts from happening in the future. In closing, I'd like to thank the 9/11 Memorial and Museum and its president, Alice Greenwald, for hosting this remembrance ceremony every year so the family members have a fitting location to come and pay their respects to their loved ones. Again, I say to the families, the friends of the families, and all those gathered here today, we stand with you and we will never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. On February 26, 1993, Charlie Makish was director of the World Trade Center Department at the Port Authority. Following the bombing, he was the senior executive in charge of recovery and reconstruction at the site. We are always so honored to have Charlie with us on this day of remembrance and commemoration. Charlie, please join me at the podium.
I'd just like to make an opening remark about the families gathering every year. It's the families and the staff that were here on the 26th of February, 26 years ago. Of the 7 human beings that were killed that day, only one was not an employee, or 2 were not employees of the Port Authority, excuse me. The other 5 were Port Authority staff, Port Authority members, and World Trade Center family. So I also commend the staff of the World Trade Center that come every year and remember their colleagues and remember this solemn moment. I'd like to give a little bit of a different message. It was a little over 25 years ago that for the first time in U.S. history, we suffered a foreign terrorist attack, and it was here at the World Trade Center. We were then, and we are now, a free, open, and democratic society. But for those of you who can think back 25, 26 years ago and remember that long ago, the concept of free and open was different for us. We were pretty much unrestricted in our movements and our private lives. Restricted access at the Trade Center actually started at the tenant's door. There were no turnstiles, no extensive security camera systems, no extensive visitor identity checks, no bollards and concrete barriers ringing the exterior of the Trade Center, and there were no restrictions on access to the open parking in the below-grade areas. This is the case today, and it's the case today throughout the city of New York and throughout most of the major cities. The '93 bombing was a lesson, hard-learned, and a wake-up call. We know from experience and best practice that our safety sits upon 4 strong pillars, and I'd like to talk about each of them. First and foremost is an intelligence system that can interdict and prevent such attacks before they happen. The police commissioner in '93 and again on 9/11 was Ray Kelly. He provided leadership along with the Port Authority police and the Port Authority senior officers to address this critical need of intelligence that's necessary to interdict and prevent. Many threats have been precluded through good intelligence and sound police work, and I commend the Port Authority police for that. Second, a swift and effective response to such an attack should it occur. In '93, because of the darkened stairwells, the disabled communication systems, the lack of training of the building population itself, it took us almost 12 hours to totally and fully evacuate the 2 towers. Immediately after '93, we at the Port Authority and the World Trade Center installed a new extensive communication system, fire life safety system, battery pack emergency lighting, and many other improvements in systems and practices, such as doing evacuation drills instead of fire drills. Some of you may recall the old fire drills where you gathered in the hall and were given instructions. But after 9/11, they turned into evacuation drills where people actually went down the stairs so they became familiar with the exit routes. On 9/11, the majority of those below the floors where the planes had struck were evacuated within the hour before the towers collapsed. The Port Authority and its staff and its leaders were leaders in the industry in implementing these changes. Many lives were saved on 9/11 by virtue of the wake-up call that we received in '93. The third pillar is restoration. And I think that this is a remarkable achievement on the part of the Port Authority and its staff. In '93, a 1,500-pound bomb exploded in the below-grade parking garage of the World Trade Center, literally disemboweling it of all of its systems: power, elevator, fire alarm, life safety systems, communication systems, domestic water, generator power, and many other support systems. The bomb exploded at 12:18, killing 6 people and an unborn child, and injuring thousands of others, as has been noted before. In spite of the losses, the Port Authority staff, who had lost their colleagues, and its leaders responded immediately and effectively. We knew there was only one response we could give to those who were attempting to disrupt our free and open society: you will not succeed. And that was the cry that rang out in '93. Get the Trade Center back. Lights in the tower were back on that night. In just 3 weeks, on March 19th, we reopened for business with some temporary systems, quick fixes, and some ingenious engineering, by the way. Prior to its reopening, new security and safety systems and protocols were in place. The perimeter of the Trade Center was hardened with concrete barriers. We needed to mitigate the fear and trauma by restoring the confidence of the public and tenants that it was safe and secure to re-enter, and we did. The fourth pillar is recovery, a return to our normal way of life, free of crippling fear, is the key to the preservation of a free and open and democratic society. Critical to the accomplishment of that goal is the remembering, the learning, the understanding of what threatens us and what threatens our continued democratic existence. Not only did we accomplish that after the '93 attack, and when 9/11 happened, we showed tremendous strength and courage. The 9/11 Memorial Museum has chronicled the progression of these events and the changes to societal practices. From the '93 bombing, that we're here today to recognize those losses, to and after the 9/11 event. The museum, through presentation, explanation, education, serves as an essential tool in the preservation of our free, open, and democratic society. Alice, our hats are off to you, your staff, the board of the museum, and all who were instrumental in its concept, design, and implementation. I commend the museum to everybody. Anybody that hasn't seen it, I would suggest that you please do go see it. It is an education. I want to thank you all for coming today and for listening. Now I'm going to call up Nicole Knapp, and I'm going to call up Steve Knapp, Jr. Steve Knapp was only about a little guy back then, 26 years ago. Nicole is Steve Knapp's senior's granddaughter, and they will be reading the names of those that perished in '93.
John D. Giovanni, Robert Kirkpatrick, and my father, Stephen Knapp.
William Macco, Wilfredo Mercado, Monica Rodriguez Smith, and her unborn child, baby Eddie.
Thank you, Nicole, Stephen, and Charlie. I'd like now to invite Stephen and Nicole and any other family members of those killed 26 years ago today to lead us in laying roses at the names of their loved ones, a ritual we do every year in honor of those we've lost. Once the families have placed their roses, I invite survivors of the 1993 bombing, first responders, and all guests who wish to do so to join in making the same gesture of tribute, which marks the end of our commemorative program today, but not the end of our remembering. As you can see, the void in our midst is the memory at the heart of the World Trade Center, but the redevelopment that is all around us is about the renewal, and these go hand in hand. Thank you all for being with us today to mark this anniversary. Please join us in laying roses. Thank you.